Welcome back to another Mackem in the Middle podcast once again after another Sunderland win, which you do love to see. Michael and John are with me to talk about yesterday's game, which did end in a 5-0 win for Sunderland at home to Cheltenham Town, obviously recently promoted Cheltenham Town. I'm just trying to think, did Cheltenham win the league last season?
Yes, they did.
It was, because it was Mackem, Cheltenham, and who else came up? Was it Cambridge?
Cambridge, Bolton.
Oh, there's 4, isn't there? Yeah, forgot about that.
So, I mean, you couldn't compare. I think if you look at the two, Bolton and Cheltenham, it's like chalk and cheese, really.
Yeah.
Cheltenham, Bolton.
Some good teams kept promoted as well, like, in terms of how they're playing this season, because I think, obviously, Bolton are doing well. I think Morecambe's striker's top goal scorer, I think he's got 9 and 9, I think it is.
I saw that.
Or 9 and 10, maybe. I'm not entirely sure how many they've played. I can't imagine they will have had their game suspended for internationals. Could be completely wrong on that, but it did finish 5-0 yesterday, Michael. And I suppose the first thing I will say is that the best performance you've seen from a Sunderland side, especially in League One?
Oh, I mean, it's very difficult to argue against it, isn't it? I'm trying to cast my mind back to other spells in League, other really good games in League One. The 4-0 against Wycombe comes to mind. But I'm only saying that and taking into account the level of the opposition that we're playing. But at the end of the day, in an attacking sense, yes, yeah, I think I would probably have to say it is. I think if you look at how the game panned out, if you look at the amount of chances we created, the amount of good chances we missed, it's been a regular theme, obviously, so far this season, hasn't it? Where we've kept on missing chances and not killed teams off. Where
defended for our lives.
Yeah, exactly. And whereas on this occasion, we just kept going. And at half time, I know you might want to segue into this later on, but who knows? But at half time, it would have been easy for us just to sit back on 3-0 and just preserve energy. But no, we kept pushing more goals. And I think, I don't know if you two agree with me on this, but I think it's no exaggeration. If we could have scored 8 or 9 goals had we been
easily
clinical than we were. Cheltenham were that bad.
Possibly just in the first half as well. I think a lot of the chances were. There's an
element of Cheltenham being really poor, but at the same time, I think Cheltenham apparently were missing a few key players, but that's not Sunderland's problem. You've got to go out and play what's in front of you. So, you just go out, do your job, be professional, and in an attacking sense, it's hard to argue against that being the best performance since being in this league.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point that you've made there, and I'll say it to you, John. But Michael says there, Cheltenham were missing, I think it was 5 key players, and obviously, Cheltenham, with as much respect, they don't have the budget Sunderland have. But if you look at the team, which we'll get onto, which Sunderland started the game with, you've got the likes of Dan Neil, who's been one of our best players. He wasn't playing. Sirkin wasn't playing. Embleton wasn't playing. Gooch wasn't playing. We were also missing a lot of key players, albeit down to choice. So to still win a game 5-0 at home after, the start of the season we've had, which we've gotten results, but not killed teams off, not being ruthless enough, it was impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. I think we all looked at the team and maybe thought, a lot of changes. There's maybe better payoff. I was certainly one of them. But it just shows you, it probably highlights both aspects of how poor the recruitment of the squad's been for years. And it's obviously proved how good it's been this season when there's a proper structure in place. I can't imagine it's a massive, expensive structure we've got behind the scenes, but it's a well thought out plan. And like you say, we've got 2 in every position, and you're not thinking.
I'm not used to Sunderland and structure being in the same sentence, mind, I've got to say.
Been a while, certainly.
Well, good structure anyway. There's always been poor structure, isn't there? So,
true.
But any player that goes out of the team at the moment, we've got someone literally to come in, sometimes even better. I was the first one to be a bit worried about Sirkin because I thought he's been decent so far.
Yeah.
But then Huggins, you probably wouldn't even known, regardless of opposition, you wouldn't have known. We were swapping out, him for Huggins, and every single position we've just got quality all over the pitch. And like Johnson said, like you've just enamored too, we've got quality literally waiting to come in. So when players are not on their game, these players can come in and definitely affect it, as opposed to, well, we can just slot him in here if we're struggling, or in years gone by it'll be, we'll just put Scowl in there or just put Power in there, and it's not really a thought of what can be done. Whereas, like you said, there's a lot more structure now. These players are coming in, and they're flourishing. To be fair, not just like I say, making the numbers up. They're actually flourishing, and they want to play. They're young, they're keen, they're hungry. And again, when we have said that in years gone by of players who were definitely keen to play, even the lone players. Broadhead's only going to be here for a year. Look how good he was yesterday.
I think he's out of contract in the summer as well. So based off his game yesterday, I would not be unhappy to see him on a permanent next season.
No, definitely. As soon as we if we get promoted as well, we sit in a really good position. But do you know what I mean? These players have come here. You could talk about Jerome Sinclair, Kazar Sterling, Lawrence de Bock, they're just
Declan John.
Yeah, exactly. Just the no thought signings that have come in, whereas these are all thought out, seem a lot more methodical, and they're actually working. It's not they're coming and go, well, it's just not working for them. All of these players are coming in there, and if you make, doesn't matter who you are, if you make 5 or 6 changes, barring if you're Man City, you are going to notice a difference. So to be fair to Johnson and the team, they've done really well. I think even on your list, I think you even left Doyle out. He's probably been, one of our best players all season. So it just shows you, we, even though I think Cheltenham manager said it, we are in a different league, in terms of recruitment and stature, compared to them, and that showed last night. And again, as Michael said, it should have been, let's be honest, it should have been 8 or 9, and that's not being, big headed or anything.
Yeah, hopefully we are in a different league completely next season. But Michael, is this season and this squad realistically the first time since we've dropped down in League One where we could probably pick up an injury anywhere on the pitch and not necessarily be worried about it? Obviously, Ross Stewart is, he's a starting striker. He's the most important striker we have. But from what we've seen of Broadhead, obviously O'Brien, I think he played through the centre against Blackpool, which we've alluded to a couple of times in the last few games in the Cup. He got a hat-trick. Is this the first season where someone can pick up an injury and you don't really worry?
Yeah, I mean, the only slight exception, you've just alluded to it there, is Ross Stewart. I do think Ross Stewart is by some way the best striker we have. But to be fair to Broadhead, if you're basing it off the Cheltenham game last night, then there's definitely reason to suggest that he could do it in this league. And as you said yourself, if he's, whatever his contract situation is, I've got a suspicion he probably wants to come here permanently, because if he comes here, he's probably going to be, wouldn't say guaranteed it, but has much more a shot at first team football. And I think he would want to come here. I think Broadhead looks promising. O'Brien, I've been quite critical of since he's come, but to be fair, I think he's a useful squad player to have. He's obviously someone, if you give him the service, he probably could score goals in this division from time to time. But as for the rest of the team, I completely agree. And like John said there before, Serkin comes off, and I think Serkin's been really, really good. I think he's got better every time I've seen him.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Huggins, to be fair to him, I think he's stepped in and done really, really well. And yeah, again, like John said, regardless of the opposition, you've got to play what is in front of you. And the good thing is that if one of these players has a dip in form, then other players are willing to come in. Not only does other players add numbers, but adds adequate numbers of quality of players.
We'll do a job.
But it also keeps the standards up of players that are coming because are playing regularly, because they'll think, well, hang on, if my form dips, or if I'm having an off game here, I'm going to lose my place. So I've got to make sure, give them extra kick up the backside to make sure that they perform to high standards. And if that's maintained throughout most of the season, Sunderland will get promoted.
Yeah, is that a promise?
It's you could say it is. Okay, I'm covering my back here by saying if standards are maintained, we should get promoted. But we know it's Sunderland. We don't do it the easy way.
There will be a drop at some point, inevitably. Just hopefully not a particularly long one or a tough one.
Well, exactly. Well, the thing is, if there is going to be a drop, make sure that the drop is 2-3 games at most. Make sure it's kept down to a minimum as possible. And and to be fair, actually, another point is that the good thing is when we've dropped points, we've responded with successive victories.
Yeah.
So that's the type of response. Whereas beforehand, you look at the ways last season ended, we didn't win 1 game, that became 2 games, 3 games, 4 games. And I think at the end of last season, and not including the playoffs, we ended up winning 1 of our last 9.
Yeah.
That's the type of run we've got to avoid having. The most amount of games we should be going without a win in this league is 2 or 3 at absolute most. And even that's quite a stretch, really. But make sure you keep the bad runs down to a minimum and keep the good runs going as long as possible. Because as you said, we are going to go through bad patches. We are going to go through spells where we don't win games. But make sure that, like I said, just make sure you win as many as you can. And the more games you win now, the less pressure you're going to put on yourselves later on in the season.
Yeah, and I suppose realistically, John, if you look at like the run that we had last season as well, obviously Lee Johnson was fairly new as head coach. He hadn't really trained with the players much, so in terms of a play style, there wasn't really one. It was kind of just cross the ball, hope we score a header, and that was it. But the poor run, how much of that do you think that comes down to the fact that we realistically had 11 starters last season? You know, if you took one of them out, you'd be weakening the team. If you look at obviously it was a completely different team from Sunderland yesterday, and had options to change even further. You know, Ellis Taylor, he's very good in pre-season. I think he's 18 years old, 19 years old. He's impressed. There's a lot of players there that still didn't get a game, even though we changed. So how much do you think that could actually help us this season if we were to go on a bad run, or if we were to, you know, maybe run out of steam a little bit, like halfway through the season? Obviously, December's a very busy period. To be able to bring in the likes of Broadhead for, you know, for Gooch or O'Brien to come in for Pritchard or Embleton, there's a lot more options that could potentially prevent a burnout, I suppose.
Yeah, of course there is. You know, and we've got the squad to deal with. You know, obviously the League Cup, we're still going well in that, and the Papa John's Trophy. I'd like to see, you know, the outer squad players and maybe some of the even under 23s. You know, getting there and maybe use it for sort of like Jamajli to get minutes.
Yeah.
For the obviously our squad, you know, in the league, it's, you know, to make 5 or 6 changes yesterday, and if anything, we were 10 times more ruthless, I'd say, than we've been, you know, in games gone by, even though we've won those games. And it keeps up that intensity. I'd use maybe like Gooch as an example. I think all the stats will tell you that he's had a really, really good start to the season. Obviously, we've watched the games, and I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. But if you've got a player like him who can be frustrating at times, it's nice now. Lee Johnson can literally turn around to him and say, "Well, look, Diaku's only just come on. He's scored. He's given us what we need." There's that intensity as opposed to, well, we've got him, so we could bring him on, and is he going to really do anything? Not really. You know, we're going to bring on Josh. We're going to bring off Josh Scowen, but we're going to bring on, you know, we're going to put Max Power in there. Not really any difference, and not keeping that intensity up. I don't know why we didn't have that last season, but it seems to be a lot. It may be the youthfulness that we've got in the squad now, and you know they're really keen, and we've got a really nice mixture, and it almost looks like last season the plan was just get it finished. It doesn't matter if we go up, if we go up or we don't go up, or we don't really care. Let's just get this summer, and we've got some good plans in place. And to be fair, it looks to me like it. You know, it's probably a good thing we probably didn't go up. And now look what we have got in place. And like you say, the intensity in the squad, bringing like for like, doesn't matter. Even if Winchester has to miss a game, Huggins comes in, Sirkin, we've got Hume, the centre backs, the midfield is easily pulled around. How well we played yesterday, and we didn't play Embleton and Dan Neil, who've probably been, you know, brilliant to the start of this season. Obviously Broadhead coming on again. You've just got options all over the pitch, and it's intense options, not run of the mill options. Again, keep going back to it, what we've been used to in years gone by.
Yeah.
Well,
look,
I think one good point John's made is that it's intense options and it's different options. Now, the good thing is that with Johnson being rotating the squad, opposition teams aren't going to know who to prepare playing against. They're not going to know. So, for example, Cheltenham might have thought, right, okay, this is what Dan Neil's about. This is what Embleton's about. Oh, no, they're not playing, right? We don't know what to do now. That's the... Obviously, it's not going to be as like stupid as the way I've just made it sound, but they would... That's the sort of mentality that we want. We want to confuse the opposition every time we play, and having more than one plan and having more than one intense plan, as John has just said, as opposed to, oh, he can do a job, let's just stick him there. Like, there's more thought and planning and process going into it. That can only help us, especially with how long the season's going to be.
Yeah.
As well, it shows you as, you know, we can look at last night. So you would have thought Johnson or the managers years gone by would say, right, let's just play our way. We don't need to worry about the opposition. In fairness to Johnson, he's mixed it up and said, look, they play a really high line. Let's get them balls over the top and absolutely hit them, which worked to perfection. And then you look at Cheltenham, you can't tell me there was any real plan. And even after 20 minutes, if you're getting done over the top, you drop 10, 15 yards so that there's no space to run into.
Yeah, I was amazed that Michael didn't do anything to change that.
But do you know what I mean? There seemed to be no plan, and it was almost like, well, now we're just going to stick to how we play. And it's nice to see our manager from game to game, as opposed to a Phil Parkinson who would say, no, we're playing our way, stuff what anyone else is doing, and it ultimately obviously didn't work. Whereas Johnson, he's got that flexibility to say, well, we saw him at Wigan play a really high line. Let's hit that because they're going to come here and play a high line. So, it's nice to see that flexibility, in a manager to do that game to game. We know when we go to Portsmouth on Saturday, it's going to be a different type of game. It's going to be more about knocking it and playing in front of them almost. So it's nice to have that flexibility.
Well, exactly as well. It's flexibility without sacrificing the quality as well.
It's not been the case last few seasons, or has it? And I think that's the big difference. I think if you look at some of the players that might have had to bring in, even the cup games, I think
like
the league,
for instance.
Not even that. He was a starter, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's even
for a large part of the season. He was a first choice player, and as much respect to him as possible. He wouldn't be our fourth, fifth, maybe even sixth choice left back this season. I think that just shows how far the squad has actually come in such a short time. The fact that Denver Hume, if you look at Denver Hume, for example, last season, we were thinking about how much of a miss he was last season when he had McFadzean playing, and now Denver Hume's re-signed, and realistically, he'd probably be in your third 11.
Yeah.
With the left backs, that's it. McFadzean was first choice last season. We know how terrible he was, and obviously he did the best of his limited ability. But he wouldn't even be fifth choice now. You're talking, he's first choice. So Sirkin, Dan Neal's played there. You got Huggins, Hughes. He'd be sort of fifth. I don't think Johnson would even play him there. I don't think. So it just shows you how we've come on leaps and bounds in the transfer market and the squad, and how. Was Johnson happy with what he had last season? I don't think he was at all. Hence why we got a shot of most of the plodders.
Yeah.
But that's the thing as well, because sorry, I know I keep interrupting you here, but I know that's the sort of thing. It's the level of quality of the players, and it's just amazing to see how we've upgraded the quality significantly, and to be fair, I was one of the first people in the summer to go, why aren't we signing players? This is absolutely ridiculous. And at the time, I believed I was justified in being worried that we weren't signing players. But when you look at it, so far, it proves that what they've done is shut me up, and it's been completely the right decision. And good, that's what I want. I want to be able to say I was wrong. And if it proves to be the case and we do go up automatically this season, then it ultimately has worked. They waited longer, got the quality, and so far, I stress so far because there's another 37 odd games left, I think, to go. It's a long season, but so far we're reaping the rewards of it. Fair play to them, and I'll hold my hands up. I was wrong.
Yeah. Well, the team which started, which most people will probably know, but if not, it was Hoffman, Winchester, Flanagan, Wright, and Huggins at left back. Evans, O'Nien, Broadhead, O'Brien, McGeady, and Stewart. Obviously, Gooch still injured. Sirkin, I think he did end up with concussion, so I think he will probably miss the Portsmouth game as well. Doyle was taken off with an injury against Bolton, and then the likes of Neil, Embleton, Pritchard all rested. But as kind of expected, Sunderland at home, you would expect them to start well in just about every game, regardless of the opponent. But Cheltenham just didn't really show too much quality. Sunderland started the game well and fairly early on did take the lead. And I think it's fair to say, probably the least pleasing, I'll not say worst, that does it a bit disservice, but the least pleasing goal on the eye was the opening goal, Michael, which was a very good header, very good ball in from McGeady, and got us off to a good start. And I think that was just seconds after we had one cleared off the line as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're referring to the chance, I think, when Broadhead rounded the keeper, passed it to Stewart, and then it was
Stewart, yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair, we should have scored that and all. But there was another one I'll very quickly mention of these lovely quality of officials in this league. We had a chance where I think we had a free kick that might have led to the corner, which
Stewart,
led to the ball, which we tried to take quickly, which I think it might have been O'Brien, someone put in the back of the net. But you know what we're like these days, you're not allowed to take free kicks quickly anymore for some reason. So, but regardless, out of the 5 goals, that's definitely probably the most basic, I guess you could say, even though the cross and the header was very good. But it's the most important one because it's the one that gets us on our way. And as obvious as it sounds, without that first one, we don't get the rest. So it's the one. It was a pretty crucial one. I think we scored it just about the 10-minute mark. So
yeah,
really important, getting the goal nice and early, and it just set us on our way.
Yeah. Well, it was half an hour into the game, I think, around then anyway, that Sunderland did double the lead, and it was the first real team move of the game. Winchester, again, very involved yesterday. Low ball into the box where Broadhead was there. And Broadhead he's let the ball go through his legs. Stuart at the back post, and it's a simple finish. And just looking at what Broadhead did for this goal in particular, John, he's a very young player. He's not played too much men's football. Obviously, I think he was on loan at Burton, but a lot of the football he has played was at Everton's under-23s. For someone, of that age, of that kind of inexperience, to have that much awareness, it was definitely a promising sign.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we signed him, I wasn't too sure, and obviously he came on. I think he just looked a bit maybe nervous. Obviously, that's going to be expected. When he transitions from sort of under 23 football to League One. But fair play to him. Yeah, his last night. I actually had him down as my man of the match yesterday. His vision,
yeah,
for such a young player, and even his touch was. Sometimes I had to look at the telly and think, oh, maybe Ross Stewart's just because obviously his touch is as good. And I was thinking, oh, no, it's Broadhead, because the touch
accidentally switched over to PSG Man City and thought you were watching Messi. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. That is honestly, and like we were touching on a minute ago, we've had players who can't even trap a ball in McFadden. I remember at Wembley, just can't even control the ball. So,
hope he doesn't listen to these podcasts. We don't say much good about him, do we?
No, I think. But no, going back to Broadhead, just the vision, the movement for such a young player. That there's a reason he's at a Premier League academy. And these players just need. We're probably saying the same about Dan Neil, for such a young player to have that vision and that awareness and be able to do these things. We've got some very, very good players on our hands.
Yeah. Well, 5 minutes before half time, Stewart got a second goal, and again another team goal. Broadhead, very good again. I think he received the ball from Stuart. I think he kind of started the move. He's dinked it into McGeady, great ball, and he's put on a play for Stuart from 5 yards out, Michael. Mm-hmm. And again, Broadhead, I don't think he actually got a goal contribution in the game yesterday, but obviously, he played a big part in the second goal, played a big part in this goal right here for Stuart's second. Just another very good team goal, and not one that you're used to seeing as a Sunderland fan in recent times.
No, definitely not. I can vouch for that. The second and third goals for me were the most pleasing on the eye. Whereas I think when you look at the build-up to them, the quick passing movement, the switches of the switching around the pitch, the passages of play, it was just the team chemistry was just unbelievable for those two, second and third goals. And obviously, as you're touching on the third one, I agree with the second. It's just I think that it's with Broadhead. I agree with John that I think he was probably my man of the match. I know what. So sorry, that's ruined it for anyone who's listening. If you wanted to have any suspense about who's the man of the match, but Broadhead. I mean, if anyone deserved a goal last night or a goal contribution, he did. That's the only probably slight disappointment that he did not get a goal, because his performance really did deserve it.
Yeah. Well, it was 3-0 at half time and could easily have been, at least double that. I think Stewart had a couple of extra chances, one headed chance that went just over. But again, second half, just about 15 minutes in, it was 4-0. Evans, I think it was Dayaku who had came on the pitch at the time, took the free kick. It wasn't the greatest ball in the box. It went to the back post. Evans crossed it in the middle, and 09's there to make it 4-0, John. Just a little bit on 09, because, he's one of them players that you either love him or you hate him. You see people that just don't see what he brings to the team, and obviously I'm not one of them. I love him, but I just don't know how you can watch, especially yesterday, because there was a few people that were saying, he's a 5, 6 out of 10, wasn't great, one of our worst players yesterday. I just don't understand how you can, if you've watched the game, how you can say that. I think 09 was class again yesterday.
Yeah, I thought it was class. I thought a lot of his game yesterday I think he did everything right. He was winning tackles. Obviously, again, we've got to look at the opposition maybe, but you've still got to, you've still got to be able to do it. I thought he was pinging balls, keeping it simple. We know he's not going to, take it around 3 players and bang one in the top corner. But everything in midfield, I think he's learning that. Obviously, he used to be an attacking midfielder, then he's gone to right back. So he's learning that sort of defensive side. And like you say, yesterday, he was quality. I maybe understand some of the stick. Not, I'm not going fully on him in that aspect, but he's bringing goals to the game. He's doing the dirty work. I think a lot of people will notice, everyone will notice a Dan Neil through ball, but not maybe necessarily notice that Luca Nine's put his body on the line somewhere to stop an attack, not necessarily on the ball, maybe off the ball. That's maybe as effective. So maybe people don't always always see that. It's easy to say, well, Daniel's threaded ball was brilliant, but did you see Luke O'Nien stop? Blah blah blah. And you do have to watch out for moments like that. But for me, he's justifying his place and he's bringing goals to the team. So yeah, you can't really argue with that at the moment, can you?
Yeah.
I was going to say as well on O'Nien is that's one of the key reasons that I like him, and I think players like that get really overlooked in the team. When if you look at it, like John said there, O'Nien can often stop an attack from the opposition, which then gives Daniel the opportunity to get the through ball through in the first place. So without that balance in the team, you're not going to get anywhere, and that's why I think players like O'Nien, and even I'm going to say even Max Power to a degree was like this, but not as good as what O'Nien is at the minute. When players do the dogged stuff in midfield, that people underestimate how big that is in a team. If you don't do that, you could get overran, and straight away you could look lost. So, yeah, I agree. I think I do get O'Nien's technically kind of limited, but I think a lot of the work he does for the team is just as important as the attacking players, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, by the time I'd finished writing about the fourth goal, it was 5. And again, Diaky, who I mentioned just before, he was on the pitch and he got his first goal for the club. Broadhead again involved without actually getting a contribution to go along with it. But I think it was Nile Huggins played it over the top of Broadhead. It was good first touch, but he's crowded out with defenders. Broadhead, that is. It felt like Diaku, and he just curled it in the top corner. And that'll do in the world good, Michael.
Without doubt. I mean, if you rewind back, I think was it the Bolton game potentially where there was one occasion where I think he basically did a gooch. He tried to skin so many players, and then the chance to have a shot and have a goal potentially had gone. Whereas if you look at last night, he's probably learnt from that and just think, right, just shoot first time. There's no need to try and outskill people. There's no need, and sometimes there is a time and a place for that, to be fair. But right, last night was not one of them. You just basically just shoot first time, bend it in at the top corner. And yeah, that will do his confidence good. And the more confidence he gets, the better he will become. So very, very pleased for him.
Yeah. Well, we did 1-6 and 7 and 8, but it did finish 5-0. Sunderland did, as kind of you would expect, it slowly start running out of gas, and I suppose they were quite happy with a 5-0 lead and not too worried about it. In recent years, God knows what, but it did finish 5-0, John. And like I say, Cheltenham, they're not the greatest side that we're going to play this season, especially when you're at home. But the game on Saturday is obviously against Portsmouth. I'm not entirely sure where they are in the league.
I can find out for you. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't think they've started particularly well.
They are 13th. Yeah, the 13th. They're slap bang in the middle.
Yeah, so they haven't started the season particularly well, not getting particularly great results. But notoriously, to go to Fratton Park away from home on a Saturday afternoon is always quite tough. We've got a lot of young players in the squad. Obviously, depending on who starts the game on Saturday. Broadhead, Huggins, obviously Sirkin, I think, still injured. Doyle could get back in. Hoffman, Diaku, these are all players 22, 23, maybe even younger. It's a very, very different game. And I suppose it'll be a very different approach as well.
Yeah, like we were saying earlier, it's going to be a different game to last night's game. I think from a personal perspective, I think we still need to be going there and thinking that we can do a job. I'm not entirely sure I'd take a point now because I think they maybe are there for the taking, but it's going to be a very, very difficult one. I'm pretty sure that the protocol is with Sirkin that if he has to come off with a head injury,
I think
as long
it's
as his
7 to 10 days, isn't it?
I was under the impression it was 5. He wasn't allowed to play any competitive football for 5 days, and then if he passed the medical, because I'm sure John McGinn for Aston Villa, I'm sure he was out for 5 days. As long as your head is past fit, if you see what I mean, as long as you're okay, as long as you don't train for 5 days, you're then allowed to play. So, but even if he's not, I'd still expect, Huggins to do a job in there, and we've got to give these players, the platform to go out there and express themselves, and to do the right thing, and play the way that we are at the moment. I don't think we should go there and fear them. I think we should go there, play our game, and if we are on form, I don't see any reason why we can't come away. But let's not kill ourselves. It is going to be a very tough game. Can they handle the atmosphere in there? Because we know it is. I've been there plenty of times myself, and it is. It is a really, really good atmosphere. Even though some of their fans are showing themselves to be plebs, but It's going to be a rocking atmosphere, but you've got to be able to rise to that. So yeah, it's a big challenge, but one I'm definitely relishing.
Yeah, I've just had a look there. I think we're both wrong because according to Sky Sports, it's 6 days for a concussion, a minimum of 6 games.
Mixed 6 days. Yeah, I think he might just get away with it. But then, do you rush him after how Huggins has been?
Yeah.
I was going to say
Dan Neil.
Huggins. It would be harsh on Huggins. don't know where that
wasn't that good.
Yeah, okay. It would probably be, you have performance enhancers. It'd be harsh on Huggins to drop him as well. But this is the dilemma we want to be having, though, isn't it? But like John said, I think Portsmouth. I would say a point's not disastrous, but I do get John's point that with the form they're on and the form we're on, there's no reason why we can't go there and win. But I think the difference is that we tended to struggle at Fratton Park with fans in the ground before. But I think, and since we've been in League One, I think we've found the atmosphere. I think some of our players have buckled under the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because I think, if I'm right, they've sold out their home allocation, haven't they, for this game?
Yeah,
yeah, they have.
That they have. So you can tell that straight away they're going to be bang up for this game. Every team is when they play Sunderland, especially. But with this fake rivalry which Pompey and Sunderland tend to have, which has died down recently, but it wouldn't surprise me if it sprung back up again in the build-up to the match. There's every reason Sunderland can go there and win. But as John again said, it's going to be a much different type of game to what Cheltenham is. Portsmouth probably aren't going to play with as high a line. Well, I don't know. Maybe at home they might do, but I would imagine that they're not going to be as naive as what Cheltenham were. And they've obviously got despite their league position, they've got much better players. So for me, it's going to be a very tough game, but it's one that we can win as long as we manage it properly. And as well, if you think of it this way, use the atmosphere and turn that against Portsmouth. Put them on the back foot, make the fans start to turn on the team. Basically do to them what everyone tries to do to us when they come up here.
Yeah. And I suppose, I'm probably glad I'm not Lee Johnson in this sense, and we'll get on to player ratings in just a second. But just before we do, John, what team do you go with for Portsmouth? You look at the game that we played yesterday, probably the best, well, definitely the best performance of the season for me. And I think I said that's probably one of the best performances I've seen since we even, got relegated from the Premier League. Obviously, that championship season was a bit of a write-off for performances, but the point still stands. You've got Broadhead again. It was outstanding yesterday, probably, if not the best player on the pitch. Huggins was very good. Corey Evans hasn't played too much football this season. He was excellent again. What team do you go with? Do you drop players that have just played outstanding purely because you've got more experienced players in the wings, or do you just stick with what's working? Because ultimately, we changed yesterday what was also still working. So do you change what's working, or do you go back to what was working before we change to what's now working?
I think
Confused
I think it's definitely. I think for me, it's definitely one we maybe revert to. What we've seen in most games. I think yesterday was a little bit. Maybe Cheltenham were a little bit more open to the attack, whereas we know Portsmouth are probably going to try and attack us at home. So we maybe need to be a little bit more savvy and not so. We can still be direct. I think with Stuart and players we've got, but I think it's a little bit more. Let's get the ball down the deck and play. And I think I'd certainly expect maybe Dan Neil to be in there. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe 09 and Evans in there as well, and just maybe let Dan Neil play a little bit further forward. But we've got so many options, ways to play. I'm not quite sure O'Brien's going to play. I'm not even sure on Pritchard yet. So I think it might just be a little bit of revert to type, maybe. We've still got Gooch to come back in. Obviously, he loves Gooch at the minute. But I'd maybe like us to see us just revert back into what we've seen on games gone by.
Yeah. We'll move into the play ratings, which I will advise you, whilst it is very easy to go with a 10 for everyone, we're going to try not to do that at least, and just kind of base it on the game. And I'll start with Hoffman, who I went with a 7, had literally nothing to do in the game. I think he had one save very late in the game, which probably the simplest save he's going to make while he's here at the club. Distribution was excellent. Again, I mentioned how good he is when he's throwing the ball out. Reached Ross Stewart halfway line, and unfortunately there wasn't anyone up with him, so we did end up coming backwards. But just distribution was good. Had nothing else to do in the game. It was 7, Michael.
I like how you've gone to me first because I kept on having to steal
Absolutely
lines after the weekend. I agree. It was probably one of the easiest games Hoffman's going to have to do. But what you touched on was when he tried to get an attack going and threw it to Ross Stewart on the halfway line on the right hand side. But even though there was nothing in that, the quick awareness that he had to try and get us on the front foot again was impressive. So yeah, 7, but just virtually on the fact that he had nothing to do all game.
Yeah, John.
I actually went with an 8. Actually, I thought he kept the ball moving really well. When maybe sometimes our players were like, "Oh, just settle down." But I thought he knew when to get us playing and when to just chill. Did everything that was expected of him. Good on the deck as well. And like you said, that throw was brilliant. And yeah, I was quite impressed with him because I was happy to give him a 6 in his first game for a bit shaky. So when he was solid enough, taking into account the opposition. But yeah, I'd give him an 8 actually.
Yeah. It's actually going to be quite hard to not over exaggerate as easy as it's going to be. But Winchester, I suppose I'll go with I'm going to say 7, and I'm going to say 7 because he didn't get his usual goal that he likes to pop up with, and the fact that I think he's had better games this season than he did yesterday. And again, he was still outstanding yesterday, defended well, offered a threat offensively as well. But he's had better games. That's not like a downer on his performance at all. So I'll go with 7, Michael.
I'm debating between I think I'll go with a 7 just because I've seen him play better in recent games. But to be fair, he got himself an assist. He got involved in the action a lot, and he was probably the not going to say least effective or worst of the two fullbacks, but Winchester was steady. I mean, obviously you take into account the opposition, but a good 7. But that's because obviously he didn't get his customary goal, but he got an assist, so we'll let him on.
Yeah, and John.
Oh, see, I've gone higher again. I think he was an 8. I thought he was really good. I thought
John's going to show us up here, like.
I tell you what, though, if we can start turning the customary 6 into an 8, I think we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, without doubt.
Yeah, but I just thought again. I think it got forward really, really well. It was a massive threat. It was always in so much space. I don't know how it gave him so much space or how he finds it. But I think he's such a threat going down there, and I'm probably on the way to saying he's a right back now who can fill in the midfield as opposed to a midfielder who's filling right back. So yeah, he's probably very unlucky as well not to be in the Northern Ireland squad because I think he's been out of the Irish boys in the team. I think he's been the best for us this season. So yeah, an 8 for me. No injustice given.
Tom Flanagan again. This is harder than a defeat. It's quite easy to slander players when you've lost and say like 4 or 5. But
let's just make this clear: we don't want to start losing games to have easier podcasts. This is what.
We don't. No, this is it. This is it. I'll go with I don't know. I'll say a 7 for Flanagan. Again, just defended well. Was more comfortable on the ball. Just a little spoiler. I'll give Wright an 8. So I'll give Flanagan 1 less because he didn't get a goal. I mean, it's fine margins when you win 5-0. So I'll say 7. Michael.
See, I'm going to. Well, I know John might revert to a 7. Yeah, who knows? But I'm going to join John's club of the previous game players and give an 8. I think Flanagan. I think it's just evidence in the last couple of games that when he's come back into the team that we missed him at Fleetwood, and I think he looks composed. He's a bit like Hoffman in the sense of knowing when to get attacks going. Him and Wright had a good partnership together going throughout the game. I think an 8, and I don't think it's unjust to say it. But again, it's the debate we want to be having.
Yeah, and John.
Yeah, same. I've gone with an 8, as Michael just touched on. He knew when to go, when to stay, and yeah, he's just like we were saying before. It's weird how we've come to a time where Flanagan's one of the first names on the team sheet now. But yeah, fair play to him. I think he was a bit. He was feeling a bit of a knock on here, which is why they brought him off. So
it's a back spasm, I believe.
Yeah, that shows you how hard he's thought of, ready for Saturday. But yeah, I was impressed with him again. 8.
Yeah. Well, Billy Wright said got better than 8. Obviously opened the scoring and started the onslaught, as I said on Twitter. Defended very well. Won the headers when he was called into action, and he wasn't. Billy Wright's always had quite a tendency to be quite nervous and shaky on the ball, and there was a couple of times where he's played it into Hoffman, when he was kind of lodged in the corner of the pitch, but it came off. So yeah, 8, Michael.
Agreed. Again, got the goal that set us going. I actually think I know a lot of people were hammered into Billy Wright at Fleetwood, whereas I know obviously he cost us the he made the 2 mistakes that cost us the points, ultimately, you could argue. But for me, in that game, he wasn't as bad as people said he was. But I think when it comes to Bailey Wright, we know we're probably not going to use him every game. But when he is going to be used, his leadership skills are going to be vital. And he is not a bad defender for this league, in my opinion.
Yeah. John?
I've actually gone for 9. I thought performance-wise, I thought it was definitely an 8. I thought he was brilliant. One of his headers, I thought his distribution was really, really good. He knew when to go long and just when to go short, when to just calm it down. Obviously, we know he's been, in the past few weeks, he's been a little bit, suspect. And obviously, picks up a goal. We need goals from all over the pitch. So it's nice to see him on the score sheet. So I'd knock anyone up one for getting a goal. So yeah, happy to be proved wrong on Bailey Wright. Yeah, I've gone a 9.
Yeah. Last defender, Nile Huggins, and I think it's not a criticism, I suppose. I mean, it kind of is. I'm going to go with it anyway. But the only thing I would say with Huggins is he reminds me a little bit of Denver Hume in the sense that you can tell which his strong foot is. You always try to cut in on his right foot, I should say. But he's got the agility, he's got the pace to beat his man and cut inside when he does. I just feel like he could be more effective on the right hand side. That's not to say he wasn't effective yesterday, because he was. So I've went with an 8. Like I say, he got up and down the left flank well, neat on the ball, skinned a couple of players throughout the game, and just a very solid performance. And I think that is probably his first ever league game as a player. I don't think you'll have played any Leeds. Could be wrong on that, but I've went with an 8, Michael.
See, I'd go one higher. I'll go with a 9. I was very, very impressed with Huggins. I think that, again, like you said, when he was bombing up and down the flanks, there are dogs barking in the background. They clearly agree with me.
Yeah.
Huggins got up and down the flanks really well, knew when to release the ball, added extra pressure for Cheltenham to deal with, and was quite impressive all round. And as you said, probably considering that as his first league game, likely, I don't think he did much wrong. So maybe I'm overestimating him a bit, but I'd have gone with a 9.
Yeah, John?
Yeah, I've gone for 9 as well.
I feel harsh here.
Look that good, and to play, it's not in his strongest position. I thought he did really, really well. He's got the speed too as well. Again, we're going back to who we had last season. You know what I mean? The difference is just unreal. He was sharp. He was solid in the tackle. He was, getting up and down. And was it for the last goal? His ball over the top was pinpoint. For such a young player as well. So yeah, I was really impressed with him, and it's probably a disservice with Serkin coming back in, who's probably first choice, and then Winchester. He's probably quite unlucky that he might not always find himself in the team.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if any of you can tell me this, but who's actually smaller out of Huggins and Johnson? Because they are both very short. It's got to be Johnson, hasn't it?
I would have gone. My money was on anyone. I would have gone with Johnson.
Yeah, I think it has to be Johnson. But Evans, again, captain the team. Obviously, he is the club captain, I believe, but hasn't played too much. Obviously, got an injury towards the start of the season. Came back into the game and was great in the middle. Won every ball, very neat with his passing. Obviously, got assist as well for O'Nine's goal. So I've went with a 9 for Evans, Michael.
See, I'm feeling harsh here. I'd have gone one just slightly more in an 8, but still in a very good standard. Quietly effective in midfield, controlled it. And probably one of the reasons Cheltenham didn't have much joy going forward, because I can't remember many good chances that they actually had, apart from when we probably took our foot off the gas later on in the game. It just goes to show that Evans. The only thing, obviously, that concerns me with Evans is the fact that he tends to be a bit injury prone. But if we can manage him properly, I think we've got a midfielder who can quietly dictate the middle of the park. And a bit similar to what we were talking about with O'Nine before. I know we'll get on to O'Nine in a minute, but just do the quiet, effective stuff in midfield that will allow the rest of the players to flourish. Yeah. John or Evans for you?
Yeah, I've gone for 9. I thought he controlled the middle really well.
I feel now.
It's not a nice feeling, is it?
The things that stood out, I think he won a really, really good tackle that set us up for one of our goals.
I think it was the second one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a cracking, crunching tackle, and I think then Stewart holds it up, and then we burst through. And then obviously the assist as well on his weak foot for 09. So yeah, I think that just bumps him up to a 9. But he's not going to have much easier games this season, is he?
Yeah. O'Nien, we'll get on to him now. Obviously got his goal, worked his socks off again all game. Showed the quality, which there is some games where he hasn't quite shown as much quality as you might know that he has, but he was composed on the ball, showed the quality, never stopped running, and I think O'Nien in midfield, he just gets everywhere as well. You know, he'd pop up on the left flank, he'd pop up on the right. He'd be our like highest player up the pitch, and he does that a lot when he plays midfield. So again, went with a 9, Michael.
Yeah, I think I probably would have to go with a 9 as well. I was debating between an 8 or a 9, but as I felt harsh with Evans, I'm going to give him late to 09. I think obviously 09 gets a goal, and I think I covered it for myself earlier that he just, again, like Evans, does the ugly stuff, which I think Dan Neil said it as much himself after the Accrington win. I think it was that because 09 does a lot of the ugly side of the game, it allows him to get be more forward thinking rather. So
yeah,
pretty key player. Not technically not the best, as I've said before, but does a very effective job. Got a goal last night, so yeah, 9.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, same. I thought he supported, both the defence and the going forward really, really well. Won the ball back superbly a couple of times, and a nice tidy finish to see him, in the box, which is what we need again. Goals from everywhere. So yeah, I've gone for 9.
Yeah. Nathan Broadhead. We'll go on to him next. And I've always said, when Kyle's been on, especially about what a player needs to do to get a 10, and we've always said, get a hat trick or get a couple like 3-4 assists maybe. Like look at the I think it was the Doncaster game where you've got like McGeady assisting 4, Wyke scoring 4, 10 out of 10 performances. So I've went a 10 for Broadhead, and to give a player a 10 rating after he's not got a goal, not got an assist, seems quite mad. But he technically got the assist to the assist for many of the goals. On a second goal, it was his kind of 1-2 with Stuart, and then the ball out wide to McGeady, and then he's let the ball through his legs to Stuart. Again, Broadhead, I think it was the third goal it was. Little dink ball into McGeady into Stuart. It was 3-0. And I think he was just excellent. And for me, I think it's probably one of the toughest decisions Johnson will have had to make on Saturday as to whether to include him or not, because I just think he was probably the best player on the pitch yesterday. So yeah, I couldn't go anything less with a 10, really, Michael.
I'd have probably gone for a 9 just for the fact that his decision making once or twice in front of goal was a bit questionable. But otherwise, you've just took the words out of my mouth. I agree. I think that without Broadhead, the couple of goals that he had involvement in probably don't happen because he doesn't have they wouldn't have as much foresight or intelligence to know when to spray the ball out wide or to be that dummy that he did for the second goal, which I think I could just watch all day. It's just brilliant. Yeah. I think it's the best performance I've seen from a forward player without them actually scoring. Certainly for a long time, from what I can remember off the top of my head. And you know what it is? If this lad wants to if he continues this up and he wants to come here permanently after his loan spell's finished, there should be no question about it.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, same 10 for me. I thought he was outstanding. Very lucky to not get on the score sheet. But yeah, his vision and his movement and passing, and like I said earlier, his touch yesterday I thought was phenomenal. So I'm not sure he's going to make Saturday because obviously he had to go off 5 minutes injured, didn't he? So touch wood, he's back in the squad. But yeah, he was awesome yesterday. Very, very good performance.
Yeah. Aidan O'Brien, I think, was probably the quietest player on the pitch for us yesterday. He didn't necessarily do much. He had a couple of chances to score. I think there was one. I think it was just before Diaku came on that he kind of volleyed into the ground, and the keeper started to make a save. I think that was a very good chance. Yeah, it's a tough one, but I'll let Michael go first before I say mine.
All right then, I'll go with a 7. I'll go with it.
Right.
For me, I think with O'Brien, well, he had another chance towards the end. If you remember, I think he skinned one of their other players. It was the very end of the game, but it was one way he skinned them and was outside the penalty box, and he just shot wide, which he probably should have done better with. But I think I'm just probably giving him a 7 just based on the fact I don't want to be too harsh and the fact that in a game we've won 5-0, I think it's hard to justify giving anyone lower than a 7.
Yeah, I'll be totally honest. I think I went with a 6. I just think out of everyone there, he did the least in the game, and like I said, he had a couple of chances to score.
We'll agree with you.
So it's a tough one, but yeah, I'll stick with a 6, John.
Yeah, I've gone for 7. I thought he worked hard. I thought, like you say, he was the quietest of the front players. There were some neat balls in there. He annoyed me a few times getting caught offside, which was a bit lazy. But they're not all going to be absolutely on fire, so we just have to take that one. But yeah, I'll just go with a 7. I don't want to go too harsh.
Yeah. McGeady went with a 9. Again, similar to Broadhead, was unlucky not to kind of get on the score sheet, but he did get himself 2 assists. He struggled at the start of the season to really do anything realistically. His ball into the box wasn't great. He looked a yard off the pace, couldn't really beat his man, but he did that all game yesterday when he was on the pitch. Obviously got a 2 assist for Stuart. So yeah, 9 for me, Michael.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. 2 assists, and it's probably backed more McGeady back to the standard that he set himself for last season. Even at his age, he's just a quality footballer for this division. And as you said, he played just as big a part, obviously, in the second and third goals, particularly as Broadhead did. So yeah, 9.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, same. I thought it was quality throughout.
Ross Stewart, last player. Again, 2 goals. Took them very well. Work rate was second to none. Won every ball. Linked up with Broadhead very well. I think there was one chance he had where he was kind of a little bit too unselfish for me. I think if he just strikes it across goal, he probably gets his hat-trick. I think he played it into Broadhead instead, and not entirely sure what happened after that. But again, similar to Broadhead, I think I'd probably have to say a 10. Just him and Broadhead were excellent yesterday. Michael?
I think probably just, because I've already said Broadhead's man of the match, I'm going to look stupid if I give Stuart a 10, aren't I? So, yeah, I'd still go with a 9. I think, obviously, I'm not going to repeat myself. He's just a quality player. There's just nothing more to say. Took his 2 goals well, and yeah, just let's just give him the Ballon d'Or already, for goodness sake.
Absolutely. And John?
Yeah, I'll give him a 9. I think it would have been a 10 if he maybe had finished. I think some of the other chances it should be bread and butter to him, but our striker scored 2 goals. We can't really complain. So yeah, 9 for me.
Yeah, and man of the match is pretty self-explanatory. Broadhead, I'd say. I think everyone thinks the same.
Can't disagree.
All the way.
Yeah.
All the way. Quality. Absolutely.
Well, Portsmouth Saturday, like I said, completely different game. A much stronger team than Cheltenham, I'd imagine. Away game, full crowd, tough atmosphere. Predictions for that one, Michael?
2-1 Sunderland. I think we're going to find that it's going to be a very scrappy game for most of it, but if we stay with it and we don't let the crowd intimidate us, and if anything, again, use the crowd to, as I said before, use the crowd to our advantage and turn the crowd against the home team. And they'll be feeling the pressure, by the way. After a difficult start of the season, they will be feeling, I know there's discontent with the ownership situation, but they'll feel the pressure if they don't start well. So let's make that count. So yeah, I think it'll be a tight game, very ugly affair. I think we should if we play and apply ourselves properly, we should have enough to win it. 2-1.
Yeah, and John, for you, I think it's one of them games where if the away team score first, everything swings in your favour.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going for a 2-0 win. I am going, so that's what I want to see. All aboard, the clean sheet train. All the way.
Absolutely. Well, that is the time we have today. Quite pleasant to talk about an absolute hammering of a team for the first time in a long time.
And going top of the league as well, with them with results below us going in our favour as well. Can't complain.
Agent Max Power.
Yeah.
What a header, by the way.
It'd be a great header.
I know, do you see it? Reminded me a bit of, was it 09s against Accrington? I know obviously it's probably not exactly the same, but it was like the header just pretty much too far for the keeper in the back of the own net. But hey, I'm not complaining. Wigan lost, Plymouth and MK Dons drew. So, we've moved a couple of points clear. Now just the challenge is staying there, which obviously is the hard part.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think back. When was the last game that we did absolutely hammer someone like 4-5, 6-0?
First game, Tranmere 5-0.
Tranmere 5-0, Wickham 4-0. Other than that, I'm struggling to remember, actually.
Was Barnsley at home? That was quite a high-scoring game, wasn't it?
That was 4-2. So that was, yeah. I suppose if you're looking at it as an absolute hammer in the games, like you said, we've mentioned there, Wickham 4-0 and Tranmere 5-0 probably, but we don't do any. Those are the type of results I want to be seen at the Stadium of Light a bit more often when we hammer someone. I know it's obviously teams aren't going to come over and just let Whip score those goals, but, especially when someone like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of someone who's not very good, like a Doncaster come up the Stadium of Light, I'd like to try and see that sort of scoreline, but we know that's probably the one time a season that we see that scoreline, so we've had our treat now.
Yeah. Well, we will be back on Sunday to talk about the Portsmouth game and hopefully another win. But until then, we will see you later.
That's all, folks.